No-till gardening is a method of not disturbing the soil structure. And when we plant a new crop, we really try to disturb the soil as little as possible and put another layer of compost on top and then plant into that. There's a lot going on in that dirt. There's a lot going on that we don't want to mess with. So we try to just kind of cut it off at the soil level and leave the root systems intact so that we don't disturb all the goodness that's going on underneath the ground. I mean, there's good microbes, there's just earthworms down there. Like, we don't want to mess with that.
This garden fills a picture with colors bright and bold, from daffodils to lace like
I remember being a younger chef or being even in culinary school, and everybody just wanted all these little tiny baby vegetables, and you could just buy them, you know, on a semi truck, and they would just come, and everything was this big and all looked really perfect, but they didn't have that much flavor. Nothing really tasted like anything. And so to be able to be involved in gardening and growing and be surrounded by master gardeners over the years, really learned, you know, amazing things about the different flavors throughout the growth life of a vegetable, from the root to the leaves to the flowers, a lot of special things. And that's, I think, really where most of our best ideas are coming from, are a plethora of basil that's gone to flower or whatever, and then what do we do with it? You know, we don't want to waste anything. That's just kind of a chef's mind. We don't ever want to waste anything, and there's so many great things at every level of growth that you just can't see if you're just calling in a produce order from a produce company. You're never going to be able to see or have access to those things.
We love the restaurant. It has a great variety. I'm not a vegan or vegetarian, but there is something for everyone.
Valencia was looking online about the Topsoil Restaurant, and it had a mention at the bottom of the page, I think it was, that Wendy has a farm here.
Over 7 or 8 years ago, we met her at a wine dinner, and it was way before this farm started. So we've just reconnected after all these years, and now we get dirty together. And we eat good food and drink wine.
We've learned to do a lot of things. A lot of things I remember my grandmama taught me how to do, but we've learned a lot more. She's got a really fine idea of what she wants done here. There's no confusion.
Do whatever you want. We're just farming.
I was a little hesitant at first when my mom said she was going to open a restaurant, but what it's turned into is something so cool that I think is so unique, and something I'm definitely proud to say, hey, my mom owns that.
I have fish heads for you. They're in the water. Thank you.
To be able to highlight so many small farms and families that go back generations that not only make really amazing wine, but also make sure that they're not robbing from the environment. I mean, Topsoil is really in and of itself, the key word here, it applies to both viticulture and agriculture. And to build that connection here is something that I am very lucky to be able to do.
What I'm finding now is with the soil structure 5 years later, it maintains, like it holds the moisture much better, and the nutrients are there for the plants. So there's very little we have to do to have a successful harvest, besides just, you know, adding more compost and putting the plants into the ground. I really started embracing the concept of no-till gardening. Good food comes from good soil. The way we started this farm was, you know, getting some pigs to get in there and just till up all the grass. And then the chickens followed the pigs and they kind of scratched up everything. And so that was the start of building soil here at our farm. We're building our own topsoil from scraps at the restaurant. So the eggshells, the carrot tops, broccoli stalks. And it takes patience and it takes a lot of manual labor to like haul all those wheelbarrows into the rows. And if it's a really dry summer or spring, we have to water a little bit, but like I'm not really watering that much. I mean, I've also noticed that the weeds aren't as bad.
This garden fills a picture with colors bright and bold, from daffodils to lilies hearty glow. From the dead of the winter to the spring, they'll promise to show. I see the trees above me, the roots far below, with every year another.
When it's busy in the kitchen, you kind of have to have just your head down. But then that's when you can kind of see everyone dancing around each other. The team that we have right now just works really great together. This coming Sunday, actually, we're all competing amongst ourselves. Each person has a course that they get to choose for the tasting. And so I'm gonna do course 3 and course 5, for example. But everybody can kind of do their own dish. And rather than Chef Adam putting together the tasting menu, it's all a collaborative effort.
There's a lot of good talent in the kitchen, especially at such a young kitchen, so it's nice to be around that. But yeah, no, he's a good leader. He, you know, teaches us stuff every day, and we learn as we go.
I think it's about letting soil do what it is meant to do. Like in a forest floor, when the soil is always covered, organic material is constantly, you know, being dropped in the fall onto the forest floor. I mean, it just takes care of itself. Like trees just grow. No one's in there watering or weeding, you know, it just happens. And that's the way it should be. And really that's what we're trying to do with our farm, is just work with nature and give the plants what they need to grow, just really with what we have here, not bringing in anything else, but just working with what we have here.
As the event manager, I am responsible for making everything work together, so to speak. So on the floor, I am the project manager. I feel the mission of Topsoil is to bring great food to the table, and that starts with the farmers.
So these are our buckets. We do prep scraps, which is like raw vegetables usually. And then these are the food scraps, and we don't get a lot of these, but the chickens love like bread and potatoes or whatever that comes off the plates in the restaurant.
That will come through in the flavor. It's picked the day it comes into the restaurant. That's how we use our prep scraps from the kitchen. And our plate scraps, we don't have a lot of plate scraps, but those we do, we feed to the chickens.
And then finishing it for aromatics with a little bit of bronze fennel that we grow in our garden right behind the restaurant. And that is the Fennel 75. Cheers. I approach cocktails the same way as a chef would approach a dish. I try to figure out what the intention of that cocktail is going to be, what the end result is going to be. In the example of our plant-based supper clubs, I always obviously go with the theme. For example, our tomato dinners, I use something with a tomato product. For the berries and blossoms, I try to use either some fresh berries or some edible flowers, maybe for the garnish. And then I also approach it kind of the way that you would approach a dish, and that I pick my feature of my cocktail, which a lot of the times traditionally will be the spirit, but I like using liqueurs and cordials because I feel that they have more impactful flavors. They keep the alcohol level a little bit lower as well, so you can enjoy more than one and still have a good time and remember the evening.
Hey, how's it going? Yes. Right here for you. Thank you for your patience. Enjoy. So it's just going to be the tomato water, basil simple syrup, and lemon juice, and topping out with a little sparkling water. So a lot of the same flavors.
I think that a lot of people forget why we're here. I'm not here to, talk about what my passion in wine is and what my favorite region in Italy is for 20 minutes to a guest when their favorite wine is a mountain Cabernet. My job is to find out what their favorite wine is and then to make sure that I give them something that is a little different and exciting, kind of open that door a little bit just to get them a glimpse of that wine world that they're not used to having.
I think the volunteers did a lot of this the other day, and it looks pretty good. But that's how I got started, was with volunteering. I volunteered here during a time when I needed to have what I call soil therapy. And when I moved, I decided I was very mindful about being sure that everything I did was related to what I wanted in my life. And so I started going to farm-to-table restaurants and found out that my favorite one, Topsoil, had a volunteer program at the farm, and I started volunteering. I would come as frequently as I could. I would sign up first for the volunteer days, and then Wendy said, you can come whenever you want. So I would call her up and say, hey, Wendy, can I get some soil therapy today? And I'd zip over here, and I would work for a couple hours before I went to my regular job. It's been just a joy to have my grandsons see Grandma in this way that I want to live, and to share that with the next generation.
Traveler, oh traveler, come stay a while. After all those weary miles, traveler, oh traveler, come find some rest. For the road is long and the world unkind. The shadows.
We met 6 years ago, and we realized we both had a shared passion for local, sustainable food.
I had put on a plant-based supper club pop-up, and Wendy had joined as a guest. And I had reached a point in my career where I really just didn't want to run a restaurant anymore that wasn't attached directly to a farm. I've learned and been lucky enough to be surrounded by master gardeners and local farmers for most of my career, and great chefs that have always taught me how to work this way. I do think that one thing that came out of that pandemic period was that our mission really stayed true, that we were able to rely on our local farmers who still had food that they were growing and still needed to sell, and we still had an outlet for it. So it really proved that the system that we truly believed in was stable.
And of course, continuing with sustainability, focusing on zero waste in the restaurant, and really utilizing everything that the farm is producing.
We couldn't have done it without you, our guests, our community, our beautiful staff.
Thank you for being a part of our journey. We can't wait to see what the future holds.
I'm gonna get some more raspberries because those did not live.
Okay.
But like the apples and the persimmons are good, and
Good.
yeah,
A couple more years.
Yeah. 5 more years.
Happens fast, right? 5
Yeah.
years.
it does.